This is a curious parrot. A curious parrot. This is a curious parrot. Are you curious about my career? Well, watch this. That parrot is curious, isn't he? Well, my career started after I graduated from Abilene Christian University in 1982, the spring of 1982. We went to the Britton Road Church of Christ in the Village in Oklahoma City. I was the outreach director. I did brochures and flyers along with my wife, Debbie. This is how we looked when we arrived. Britton Road is located just east of Lake Hefner in Oklahoma City. This is what the auditorium looks like. This is a brochure that I made while I was there as outreach director. Have you seen Jesus Love on Britton Road? Gave examples. Jesus Love in action at Britton Road, relevant classes, social times. We have great news for the parents of preschool and younger school-age children. We had a children's Bible hour. It was provided for children of 3 years and older while their parents worship. And we want you to see the love inside as well as the message outside. Our first child, after 7.5 years of marriage, was Lucas Nathan, February 16, 1983. Family dinner about this time period. We had social times too. I taught a young adults class, and we would have social events like bowling. And I must have had a strike there. Everyone was really looking at the scores. We had volleyball, times to visit and eat, delicious food together. And we would sing together also. It was a wonderful time. Have you seen Jesus Love on Britton Road? We had community enrichment seminars. One of the speakers was Dr. Lynn McMillan. He presents to 78 community visitors on February 9th, 1984. At last, feeling good about yourself. Part of that flyer says this: people all around us help us decide how we feel about ourselves. How do you determine your feelings about yourself? Dr. McMillan will have valuable suggestions and written material for you. And Dr. Howard Norton presents to 45 community visitors on October 2nd, 1984. This was a letter sent out to the community. Part of what it says is this: would you like to be a healthier person, both mentally and physically? Stress can play a key role in whether or not you achieve your desired degree of health. To better prepare you to handle stress, Dr. Howard Norton will present a free lecture, Coping with Stress. We also had the popular Burkeen Faulkner Family Enrichment Seminar videos presented to 40 community visitors starting on April 13, 1985. This was the flyer sent to the community for that. We had some impact highlights. Like we were doing a door-to-door survey about day-to-day living, and an older man came to the door. He had an interest in some topics, and his wife was confined to the home. You could have a friend stay with you. Stay with her, I said. But we don't have any friends. No one cares about us. And by the way, this is our house that we lived in 1985 and 1986. It didn't look that way when we lived there. It's been remodeled. But several weeks later, the church started this program, and I remembered him He agreed to receive meals, he and his wife. And I'm walking down off the porch, and he says, and I couldn't hear him, so I said, "Pardon me." He said, "You've lifted me up." Well, I'm the one that flew to the car. The church continued to help him, and he put them in his will. With the funds he donated, they bought this. They added that to the church building. And what is that? That's their new fellowship hall. The church continued to help him, and he put them in his will. With the funds he donated, they bought this. There's one more highlight. Our second child. Our second child was born on December 31st, 1985. Titus Ian. We were a happy couple. We then moved, after our stay there, to Excelsior Springs Church of Christ, just 30 miles northeast of Kansas City, Missouri. You can see it on the map here. These men came down to move our belongings from the church. I flew with one of them, and we were able to get a spot that looked like that of the church building, which was outside, right outside of town. This is how we looked at the time. Mowing the lawn was an immense job covering 2 lots. We lived right here. And I had to cut all of that with a 21-inch blade. The person that lived next door lived in a duplex. He would get out on his riding lawnmower and cut his in less than 30 minutes. It took me 2 hours to mow mine. He got out on his riding lawnmower, cut half the lawn at his duplex in 30 minutes. We had good friends in the Britton Road Church who came up to see us. He was actually visiting his parents at the time in Kansas City. But this is Gerald and Connie Ludwig and their children and ours together. Debbie's parents visited us also, and my brother and family, along with the campus ministry of Northeastern State University, visited, and they conducted a vacation Bible school. In 1948, the Elms Hotel hosted its most famous guest, Harry S. Truman, President of the United States. And he was there right before the election in 1948 in November. We had some community outreach seminars. Jim Fight, business executive, Kent Lashley, professor and former football coach, and Willard Tate, communications professor. I knew Jim and his wife Carolyn at Britton Road in Oklahoma City, or the Village. Kent Lashley was an associate professor with my brother Max Duane at Northeastern State University, and Willard Tate was a professor and my commencement speaker at Abilene Christian University in 1982. Here's Jim and Carolyn, along with our boys. This was the flyer that we sent out. Jim Fight's seminar in self-management. One of the attendees to his seminar said this: "Since the seminar, I'm down by 39 pounds. I hope others will take advantage of this program to be better achievers and have a more productive life," said Pam Baker of Oklahoma. Jim Fight and his wife sent a letter of appreciation after they were with us that weekend. And this is what they wrote: "You have a great future because you are so loving. You've acquired a tremendous asset with Ken and Debbie, and you're interested in making any necessary changes to ensure that great future is indicated by your seminar and worship attendance." We also had Kent Lashley, Dr. Kent Lashley come. 75 community visitors attended his seminar. We had Willard Tate present 2 seminars in the spring of 1986 and 1987 with 50 community visitors at each one. Willard Tate speaks here in the auditorium. We had Social Times. Titus was the VBS students in 1990. He was about 5 years old at that time, or 4 years old. And Ken hands out VBS balloons. Titus even celebrates his 2nd birthday while we're at Excelsior Springs. He's enjoying his gifts, curious about them. Halloween in 1987 and Christmas in 1987. They got jammies. And here are 2 loving brothers. Proverbs 18:22 says that he who finds a wife finds what is good and receives favor from the Lord. My wife and I were walking with our small boys around Watkins Mill. They had a lake out there and they had a walkway all the way around it, paved all the way around it. I began to have dots in my right eye. And of course, it blocked my vision. Eventually, this is how I saw. I couldn't see anything. I was blind. For 8 months in that eye, I had surgery, a laminectomy on my lower lumbar, and was hospitalized for 10 days. Blind in one eye for 8 months with multiple trips to surgery and doctors. And she was my helper and the boy's helper. He who finds a wife finds what is good and receives favor from the Lord. And I had and have a tremendous wife. We next moved to Kearney, Nebraska. Kearney had a population of about 35,000, but when UNK, the University of Nebraska at Kearney, was in session, there were 45,000 who were in attendance. United moved us. This was our house. Church building. You can see the church building sign there. Notice that sign because I'm going to have a story about that in just a moment. There were 90 members when we came and 130 when we left. This is how I was introduced to Kearney, Nebraska, with a newspaper ad, How to Develop the Power of Optimism. And I went over all those topics in the coming Sundays, and we invited the community to come. Here are some family and school activities that we participated in. Of course, Titus celebrates his 6.5-year birthday. Since his birthday is on right next to Christmas, we would always celebrate half birthdays as they were growing up. Lucas celebrates his 10th birthday. 8-year-old Titus exercises during Who Broke Humpty in a school activity. 3rd and 4th grade music program with Lucas, and he's right there. There he is. And again, his 10th birthday, he's blowing out the candles. Wednesday night class, Debbie taught that. And this is an example of that on June 2nd, 1992. This is our future garden. And it was a good garden. We had a message sign. The city council set up a rule for church signs no larger than 32 square feet. I had a 1-hour discussion with them, the city council, for a 50 square foot sign, and guess what? They approved it. Success comes in cans. Failures in can'ts. Don't be afraid to go out on a limb. That is where the fruit is. Trim yourself to suit everybody, and you will soon whittle away. We became the only church in town with a sign this size, and the community noticed. We had a hot summer one summer. You can see the headline down below, the sign outside Kearney's Church of Christ adopted a philosophical approach to the heat. Monday's high in Kearney was 101, while forecasters expected the mercury to reach into the upper 90s today. But you think it's hot here, you can fill in the rest. I received this complimentary note from one of the doctors in town. He said, I just want to thank you for your radio and telephone messages. I had the telephone number on the sign to call for a message. They are very uplifting and a real inspiration to me. The world would be a better place if people would listen to your advice, says this doctor. We also had community outreach seminars here. Here's one, how to have a positive mental attitude. This again with Dr. Lashley from Tahlequah, Oklahoma. I want you to notice, highlighted little section of this. This guy is going to be good, said one seminar visitor to her two friends. And they got here at 6:30 and saw only one car. There were several more when they came back 15 minutes later. And after hearing Dr. Lashley, she was impressed, but was surprised more weren't in attendance at the evening session. Well, how many did come? We had over 100 community visitors. And this is what that box says. They stayed for the entire seminar, and she felt the seminar was free. But anytime she's gone to a church, there's been a free will offering. And she waited and waited, and when I picked up the basket at the end, she knew it would be passed for the offering. And to her surprise, it was another door prize drawing. She couldn't believe it. And then when she saw the prices for the tapes, the recordings of his sessions, she was again surprised. And yes, we impressed them as truly sponsoring a free community seminar. Who was the speaker? He was diagnosed with multiple sclerosis. But before that time, he was a Coach of the Year honors in Oklahoma and Texas. He was an enthusiastic speaker, an outstanding professor. And his seminar motivated the church to have many seminars with amazing speakers. Willard Tate from Abilene Christian speaks to more than 60 visitors to the YMCA, then at our building. So coming Saturday, October 14th, Professor Willard Tate's Learning to Love seminar. We also had Dr. J.J. Turner. He came with 15 students from Bear Valley Biblical Institute to survey the community and invite them to this seminar. More than 60 community visitors came. It had to do with positive, abundant living. Stop thinking on problems. Start thinking on positive biblical principles. We invited the community to several more seminars with 40 to 85 community visitors in attendance, like How to Bring Out the Best in Yourself and Others by Dr. Kent Lashley, with 85 community visitors. Life Coping Skills by Dr. Lynn McMillan from Oklahoma Christian, with 55 community visitors. And How to Bring Out the Best in Yourself and Your Family by Dr. Tom Milhellen Holland, from Abilene Christian, had about 40 community visitors who came to his seminar. John Clayton came. And 65 visitors registered for the door prizes, while others chose not to. We had 100 in attendance at the YMCA and 85 at the University of Nebraska at Kearney. It's called UNK. One visitor said this, that I already believed in God and the Bible, but I never realized how much science has to say about the existence of God. Highlights one more thing: the diabetes support group. In 1988, I had severe atrophy and muscle cramps in my right leg. To remedy this, I had a lower lumbar laminectomy. During my recovery in the diabetes wing, I met 5 people who were blind. In 1986, I had a massive bleeding in my right eye, which was corrected with laser surgery. And so this motivated me to start a diabetes support group in Kearney, Nebraska. I started a diabetes support group in 1992 with public service announcements on the radio and my doctor's contacts. 35 came to the first meeting at the Kearney Public Library. Eventually, the hospital in Kearney, Nebraska hired a certified diabetes educator, and she wanted me to continue leading the support group meetings. I gave encouraging support to those who attended, helping hundreds of people. And this is one who, with type 1 diabetes, became a Christian, and many others also. From Kearney, we moved to Hutchinson, Kansas. The Walnut and Campbell Church of Christ in Hutchinson, Kansas. 38,000 population, 40 miles northwest of Wichita, Kansas. And this is Titus as a teenager, standing in front of their church sign. We did have a community seminar with just Gary J. Moore. And it was at the Ramada Inn, Ambassador Room. He spoke on 3 principles to overcome, or three steps to turn obstacles into opportunities. And this is what Ken Jones, president of Lubbock Christian University, said about him. The Gary Moore story is one that should be told all over this nation. It's a story of sadness, distress, survival, encouragement, and victory. The lessons he teaches can literally change any of our lives. Gary is a voice of strength and hope to those who are struggling, as great as any voice I have ever heard. Well, Gary was a paraplegic. He was driving a school bus, was involved in an accident that resulted in his paralysis from his waist down. 55 community visitors heard him speak about 3 steps to turn obstacles into opportunities. I also had diabetes outreach everywhere I go. I became the facilitator of the diabetes support group in Hutchinson. And I made public service announcements for the Guthrie's seminars with outstanding results in attendance. It was conducted at Hutchinson Community College Auditorium. In 1998, Dr. Richard Guthrie. In 1999, Dr. Diana Guthrie, both from the esteemed Great Plains Diabetes Center in Wichita, made a significant impact. They shared their knowledge and expertise with over 200 individuals at each seminar. The diabetes support group started meeting here at the Hutchinson Public Library in this conference room. We met monthly in this room with an average attendance of 85. When 3 representatives of the American Diabetes Association came to make a presentation, expecting 15 to 20 attendees, they were shocked to see 100 present. Well, from Hutchinson, Kansas, we moved to Hastings, Nebraska, which is a city of about 25,000 people, 105 miles west of Lincoln, Nebraska. This is how our family looked at that time. This is what the church looked like, or some of the church. First, we'll start with worship, monthly meals, and classes. This was the worship assembly on a Sunday morning. And our sons are on the front row, Titus and Lucas. Got up and gave my presentation, my sermon. We had monthly meals that were delicious. Debbie is serving drinks. And the desserts, I was told, were absolutely delicious. Wednesday night Bible class. York College Chorus would come and sing every year to us. And they did an excellent job. I also participated in diabetes outreach in this town. We had a diabetes seminar with Richard Guthrie from Hutchinson, Kansas. I got the educator to invite him to come up, and he agreed to come and present a seminar and also teach the nurses at the hospital. He speaks to an overflow crowd of more than 250 people in our building. And these are examples of how packed the auditorium was, with an overflow room that was filled. Pharmaceutical companies shared their products at the diabetes seminar and fair in the fellowship hall that we had. Here's an example of them, seeing all the products that are available. Debbie was serving drinks and other things that are like vegetables that were good for people with diabetes. This was a brochure that I made for what we were going to do the following year, the diabetes support group, the Mary Lanning Hospital. I was the publicity and treasurer. And I also made 2 presentations each year in the summer, in June and July. We had a Juvenile Diabetes Research Foundation charity walk. This is my team. It's also my family, and also a friend back here named Ken, standing behind a guy named Ken. We had community outreach seminars. Again, we had Gary Moore. At the Holiday Inn Convention Center, there were 90 community visitors who came September 17th, 2000, and many to the building the next few days. In 2003, we offered this seminar, and many community visitors came to it. It had to do with finances. No Debt, No Sweat by Steve Diggs. We had wonderful vacation Bible schools every year. And one of the things that I did was send out a flyer to the community about it and offered a class. And it was a class on how to bring out the best in yourself and your family. And many community visitors came. A reporter from the Hastings Tribune came and wrote this about the class, as you can see. And then it was put in the newspaper, the Hastings Tribune. She interviewed me, And this is what I said, there are situations in each episode that can stimulate a discussion of principles of conduct found in the Bible. I don't try to be controversial or anything. I just offer some good lessons and make some good points. The idea is to be positive, and we were. And I even had a workbook for everyone to use who attended. Well, this was the old sign. This became the new sign. It arrived, and these men erected it. And of course, it says, for a special treat, try one of our Sundays. Invest in others, it pays great dividends. And then the final thing that I want to show you is the Ellis family highlights at this time. Titus and his friends, they celebrated his 16th birthday. And boy, he's having a good time at his 16th birthday. Ready to blow out the candles. Lucas High School graduation in 2001. And Titus High School graduated in 2004. Lucas graduated from Hastings College in 2005. This was the school that Coach Tom Osborne graduated from, the Nebraska football coach. Titus graduated from York College in 2006. Now, what is this? Well, it's our dog Ruff. Ruff the Third. He lived from 2002 to 2017. So, of course, from Hastings, Nebraska, we moved to Noble, Oklahoma, which is 5 miles south of Norman, which has a population of about 120,000 people. Several things I want to share with you from this. The message sign. We moved in August of 2007, Mayflower. And it wasn't long before we were discussing getting a new sign. This is the sign right here. Not much you can put on that. But this is the new sign that arrived. Men of the congregation came with their equipment and they set it up. Let's do to others as though we were the others. The heart is happiest when it beats for others. And the best way to compliment your wife is frequently. We had worship, we still do, and the clothing house. These are two friends I'm pictured with, Tom Avance and Jack Pruner. And Tom Avance was a World War II veteran who actually fought at Iwo Jima in the Pacific. I would often lead a song halfway through my lessons, and Tom liked that and amusingly said, "It breaks the monotony." I thought it was amusing. Tom was a great song leader. 120 people would show up for a monthly open house of the clothing house. We also have an annual holiday meal. Here's an example. All the people that show up. Primarily the younger ladies of the church would prepare delicious dishes to share. I just want to give you a couple of examples of baptisms that have happened here, among many over the years. This is an example of Kurt. He was baptized in some member's backyard swimming pool because someone left on the baptistry's heater and it was scalding hot. That is, the water was. Raymond weighed 460 pounds, and this was the trousers he wore when he was 460 pounds, but still weighed 280 pounds, and he was a member of the diabetes support group. He towered over me, but he made the decision that he wanted to be baptized. So Dean Bass, a former OU football running back under Coach Bud Wilkinson, baptized him. There's Dean Bass right there. Diabetes outreach here. Once I received this medal from the Joslin Diabetes Center in Boston, Massachusetts, they invited me to participate in the Medalist research study. I was diagnosed the fall of 1960, and this was 2010. So I lived for 50 years, and this was the medal that they presented to me for living for 50 years. They call it courageous years with type 1 diabetes. So Debbie and I flew to Boston. I'm a participant in their medical research study of Medalist, which is discovering protective factors to prevent complications to those with diabetes, like kidney damage. We've been to Boston twice for the research. And in 2016, I wrote a book, and our book reached #1 in sales at Amazon in the diabetes category for a week, which was phenomenal. We mailed flyers for diabetes seminars at the library. 55 visitors would often attend, and many would then come to the building for monthly seminars. This is where we would have the seminars, in this room. And here I am giving one of the seminars in the library, the library conference room. I presented a biblical health and wellness diabetes seminar to more than a dozen churches so far, and I want to do many more, as I'm retired now. We had a community outreach seminar, the American Founding Seminar by Ryan Cox.
Since then, most presidents have used the Bible and the phrase, "So help me God," and even kissed the Bible up until Dwight Eisenhower, who offered a prayer instead. Washington assembled his first cabinet, Vice President John Adams, Secretary of Foreign Affairs John Jay, became the first Chief Justice, Secretary of State Thomas Jefferson, Secretary of War Henry Knox, Secretary of Treasury Alexander Hamilton, and Attorney General Edmund Randolph. Is that not an all-star lineup? Wow. By the way, he had one tooth left at that point and would get dentures that year. Plans for the new capital began in January of 1791, the capital having moved to Philadelphia the previous month. In September of 1791, the commissioners named the city Washington in honor of the first president.
So anyway, 85 was the average attendance for 5 sessions. There's one more thing I want to share with you before we close. This career, 42 years. Ellis family highlights. Titus' graduation in 2008 from Oklahoma Christian University. And here are his older brothers with him. The marriage of Marcy Tunnell to Titus Ellis on July 12th, 2008. Now in retirement, We have 2 grandchildren to enjoy. Titus Joe and Georgia, or Gigi. And that is my 42-year career as an evangelist and minister. Thank you for watching.